Hi, I want to welcome everybody this morning to our gathering to honor Jodi and to ask for people to come forward with information. My name is Caroline Lowe. I'm with the Find Jodi team. Joining me today is a member of our team, J.L. Barrio, who's a former Woodbury police officer. Find Jodi was created about 20 years ago by two former journalists from Minnesota, Gary Peterson and Josh Benson. They felt that Jodi was a member of our family. None of us have ever met Jodi, but she was part of our extended family. So they created Find Jodi. Basically, we're volunteers spread across the country, and we try to make sure that Jodi is not forgotten. That's why you'll see the billboards in town. That's why we organize this gathering each year. And we know that anniversaries like this are significant, obviously for the family, because it's a painful, horrible reminder of what's missing and what they've been through. But we know the date is also important to the person who committed the crime. So we're hoping that that person, we assume, is probably checking the news, that they check and they see today our presence, that we're not going to go away, that the community's not going to go away, and we're going to continue to pursue finding out what happened to Jodi. The thing that stays with me all the time is, Jodi, where are you? And we've been wondering that for 29 years. 29 years ago this morning at this time, Jodi should have been here at KIMT. She should have completed her morning newscast at 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then be preparing for the noon show. Instead, she was grabbed as she was getting into her car to come to work, and she never made it here. So we're here today to appeal for information, and you'll also be hearing from somebody who knows the tragedy that Jodi's family is living with all too well, Patty Wetterling, the mother of Jacob Wetterling, who in many ways, the Jacob and Jodi's cases have been tied together for years in terms of people's remembering these two Minnesotans who disappeared. Jacob was finally found 27 years later in 2016. And Patty Wetterling actually was interviewed by Jodi when Jodi was in college, and then a few years later when she was at Alexandria. And the Wetterlings have deep ties to Mason City as well. That's where Jacob's father, Jerry Wetterling, grew up. But we want to start today with a message from Jodi's family. They're not here in person, but they're very much appreciative of everybody that's turned out, everyone that's covered this locally, and we have a statement that Jodi's news director at KIMT, Doug Murbach, will read from the family.
Thanks, Caroline. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. As Caroline said, I'm not a family member. I'm going to try to do the best I can with this, representing the family. Today marks 29 years since our Jodi went missing. It is hard to believe that it has now been almost 30 years since we last had a chance to talk with, hug, or share a laugh with our dear sister, aunt, and friend. None of us could have imagined when this first happened that we would still be here now waiting for answers and for justice to be served in her case. We, Jodi's family, would like to express our thanks to all of you who continue to take interest in Jodi, her story, and in seeing her case solved. Your support means the world to us, and we cannot thank you enough for you being here. There are not enough words to express our sincere gratitude to the Find Jodi team and the work that they have done and continue to do to keep Jodi's story alive and this case active. We are incredibly blessed to have this group, and we know that Jodi would be so appreciative of everything you have done if she were here. A very special thank you to the members of the Jodi's Network of Hope, especially to Jodi's friends, Amy Aarons and Candy Host, for all the hard work and dedication that they have put into creating such a positive light and force of change in Jodi's honor. The amount of safety training and scholarships given within the 20 years of the organization is astounding, and you have made such a wonderful, lasting legacy for Jodi. Jodi is so much more than what happened to her, and your work has further emphasized this. Finally, we would like to thank law enforcement for all their work and for continuing to pursue answers and justice in Jodi's case. The pain and anguish that all who love Jodi have experienced since this tragedy happened are immeasurable. As a member of the Optimist Club, Jodi would want us to be happy and positive about life. We strive to be upbeat and optimistic like her. We must admit that it is very hard on most days. True peace will only be given to us when Jodi is found and justice is served to her. Please do not make us continue to wait for answers. If you know something, the time is now. The time is now, we implore you. Help us bring Jodi home. Sincerely, Jodi's family.
Thank you, Doug. Doug was very close to Jodi as well. He hired her. He brought her here to Mason City. He was at the golf tournament the night before, and he's just one of the many, many examples. So many people who are affected by Jodi's loss and the unknown. Next, it's my honor to introduce Patty Wetterling. I've known Patty. I don't remember a time when I didn't know Patty. I think we've been on a journey for a long time. I got to know her many, many years ago before either one of us had grandchildren, and I spent a lot of time in her living room. We talked about Jacob's case. She never gave up hope that Jacob was going to come through that door someday and come home, and that wasn't the answer she got. And I was in the courtroom when she went through the final disposition of the legal part of the case. But she has written a book, and she's been on a book tour and sharing messages of both hope and some lessons learned from what she went through, and we hope she will share some of that. But starting off with, tell us a little bit about, you met Jodi on a couple occasions, if you could tell us some of your memories of Jodi.
Thank you. I do remember Jodi. She was a student at St. Cloud State. I think she was a senior when she came to our house to interview a little bit about Jacob's disappearance. And one of the first things I learned about missing children from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is kids are found because of all of you. They're found because somebody sees their picture on TV, they hear their story on the radio, they know and they see something suspicious and they call it in. And so I want to thank the Find Jodi people, but I also want to thank the media for caring, for keeping Jodi in your heart. That is what is going to get answers. We got answers after nearly 27 years because the story kept out there in the news, and also some of the other victims. Some victims came forward and they shared, well, this happened to me, maybe this has. So if anybody out there has any kind of a lead, even if it feels small or insignificant or you're unsure, you know, if you call that in, it might be a piece, the missing piece to a bigger puzzle. And if everybody calls in what they know and what they saw or what they think or what they fear, we'll have more pieces. So that's what anniversary dates are. It's about a chance to revisit and never forget this wonderful, sparkly, bright-eyed young woman who had her whole future in front of her. She came back to our house, I think it was a 5-year anniversary, when she had graduated and had a job nearby. And so our lives and our journeys with Jodi's family have been quite parallel. We drove through Mason City on our way here, and Jerry grew up here. We drove by his old house where our kids, we were here every holiday, every summer. The kids all spent time in Mason City, and the important part about that is everybody was impacted by Jodi's disappearance. It changed life for people here in Mason, and everybody needs to know who did this, what happened, and where is Jodi. I think those answers will nag at everyone. A lot of people remember the day they heard the news, and let's go back to that day and think about who was around and what else. We're still looking for the what else. I couldn't. The other thing I love about today is you're shining a light on a really dark subject, and when there's enough light shining, that it's not so dark, and people can get over their fear and find a peaceful world. And for me, that world was about fighting for. I couldn't live in the darkness. I had to fight for the world that Jacob knew, and that's what I'm encouraging you here too, is fight for Jodi's world, who she was, what she stood for. That's the good part of life that we need back. and it honors her life, and while we seek answers for what else happened. I drew a lot of strength from kids. One child wrote, they're all so wonderful. This is a second grader. She wrote this for Jacob, but I'd say I'm going to substitute Jodi's name. This song is to Jodi and Mom and Dad. It's called I Love You. I love you, Jodi, but I can't come give you a hug. But there's one thing I can do, is find you in my heart. And that's something that we can all do. The letters to the family mean everything. Don't be afraid to say her name. We like to hear our kids' names and our sisters' names and our friends' names. And I also like the image, the world. This one was especially helpful to me. Also a second grader. If we lose sight of the way kids see the world, we are in trouble. And I think that they give us a joy that will keep us going until we get those serious dark answers. This is from Dalton. Jacob will be fine. If he isn't all right, you'll see him in heaven. My dog died. If Jacob's gone, he can play with my dog. That was an image I could live with, and I envisioned Jodi being her sparkly, bright self, living in a better place while we search for the answers to get her home and to find out who did this. The person who did this, in our case, came forward after almost 27 years because of these other victims being brave enough to share their story and to dig further into getting answers. So there's a guy out there, and if you're watching, it's time. It's time to come forward. He's carried the darkness also all these years, and it's time to come forward and give us answers. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. There's one other, I was at my daughter's house last night, and she had this native verse that we also it gave us strength. So this is for the family. I give you this one thought to keep. I'm with you. I do not sleep. I'm a 1,000 winds that blow. I'm the diamond glints on the snow. I'm the sunlight on the ripened grain. I'm the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning hush, I am the sweet, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not think of me as gone. I'm with you still in each new dawn. Jodi's with us, and we want to carry that hope that we find her and that somebody comes forward. So we're asking all of you to be part of the Find Jodi. Thanks for being here.
I ask you, Patty, you obviously had a horrific ending to your search. What does it mean? What does it mean to know? Because it's to not. What's the difference in knowing and not knowing, and how does that change your life? And how would that be helpful? You expect for Jodi's family if you could get answers?
It's really difficult living in an unknown world for us. It was like, is it you? Did you know that the trust of the world kind of got stolen as well. It gave us a peace that nobody could hurt Jacob anymore, that we will see each other again, and that this was bigger than all of us. And I think that knowing the answers, no matter how hard they are, I still feel Jacob when I see eagles, when I see rainbows, and it gave me permission to be okay with that. It was a desperate search. Every morning I'd get up. It's like, what can I do today? Who haven't I talked to? Where else do we need to go? And that subsides with answers. You have some peace in your heart, and they all need. You all need that. Jodi's friends, neighbors, co-workers, parents, sisters. Anybody whose life she touched. It will soften the sadness of what happened.
And lastly, what can people do in the community, or people that may not have information? How can they be part of keeping Jodi out there? What did you find effective with Jacob that perhaps people watching today or in the community and beyond can do, the media, to help keep Jodi from being forgotten?
I think sharing her story, you know, if you're talking to a neighbor, I just watched this again, and it's troubling. Fighting for the world, where we're not raising people who are going to go off and steal another person. It's like we have to be part of building the world that Jodi knew, and not be afraid of working with the police. You know, that they're there to serve all of us, and they can only do what information they have. So if anybody has any, you know, if somebody was watching the news way back when Jodi was taken and they were obsessed with it, they collected everything, or they turned the TV off every time her story came up, if they changed behavior in any way, if they're just, something caught your attention as odd, that's information that's helpful, because, like I said, they're collecting pieces of a puzzle, and they need all of our help in getting the answers. Is that good?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge that we have several members of law enforcement here, including the local, someone from the police department and from the DCI. If you have information, we have numbers on our website, but call them. The first thing, call the Mason City Police. They are the primary agency handling the case. Or you can email DCI Special Agent Ryan Herman, or you can reach out to us. But don't sit on that information. And even if it's just a hunch, you're not sure, come forward. Let them figure it out. There may be something that's already in their files that fits, or maybe they can figure out, no, it's not connected. But don't make Jodi's family wait another year for answers. I mean, that's what they begged last year. And here we are again. And I hope someday soon, the next year, we go from being Find Jodi to Found Jodi, that it's over, that Jodi's back in Long Prairie, Minnesota with her family. A few things you can do out there at this point. We're asking people to leave a light on, porch light or a candle on this weekend, and hashtag Lights for Jodi if you put it on your social media. You can check out our billboards in town. We have 2 billboards, one across from the Mason City Airport. The other one is by the Old Country Club. And I want to thank Ashley Billings and Reagan Outdoor Advertising. They have been wonderful partners for us, helping us out, identifying good locations. In fact, they donated the most recent location, the billboard that's across from the airport, is thanks to Ashley trying to find a place with a lot of visibility and keeping her out there. We have an updated flyer. It's on our website, but it's here if you want to take one of those and just keep it out there, because we want whoever did this to just get, we think if he's alive and he's not in prison, they're probably coming to our site. They're going to media sites. They're probably Googling Jodi Huisentruit, and I want them to see that we're here, and we'll be back here next year, and we'll do whatever it takes to keep Jodi from being forgotten. We're not going away, and we know the community is not going to go away. So thank you so much for visiting here. If anybody else wants to make a statement, is there anybody else who? Jay? Thank you, Jay, from our team.
I'm Jay Alberio from Find Jodi. And one of the common messages you're hearing here today is don't sit in silence. You have some information. And the person that took Jodi, he's not out there telling people, I took it. He may be saying little odd things about Jodi. Things that make persons sit there and go, what? Call the police. Call Mason City Police. Call DCI. Caroline has that information. It's on our website. Contact them. They may think it's a very little piece of information, but like I said, he's not admitting to it. He's given little bits and pieces and hints that he may have had something to do with it. So you hear the message, contact the police or DCI.
The guy who took Jacob was telling coworkers that he was a suspect in Jacob's abduction, and none of them called the police. Can you believe that? If you hear somebody talking about or bragging about or even mentioning, it's exactly what you said. Those are the pieces that matter. He didn't say he did it, but he told coworkers that he was a suspect. That's significant.
How many years earlier was that?
That was in 2015. That was right before he was arrested. But it took a long time. You know, and if somebody's saying something like that at work, call it in. And then he called attention to himself. Call it in.
If anybody wants to speak with Patty afterwards, one-on-one, we have to leave by noon, but I think we're good. Anybody, do you want, from Mason City, do you want to say anything? Okay. All right. Again, thank you very much for joining us. We truly believe Jodi's case has had a lot of national attention, but we think the answers could easily be right here in town. Jacob was found about a mile from where the suspect lived and not too far from where you live. He didn't really go far, and we believe the local media is key. So northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, please keep doing what you can where you are to keep the case visible, and let that person know if he's Googling Jodi that no one's going to go away. Thank you. We have photo boards if you haven't seen it before. These are photos from Jodi's family, from her albums, and it takes her from a little girl to her final weeks.